My girlfriend just broke up with me via text message, while I'm admitted to the hospital. The steady hum of machines filled my room, the four-pump keeping rhythm like an indifferent drummer. I had started to recognize every sound, the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes, the squeak of food carts, the faint echo of laughter from the hallway that somehow made this place feel even lonelier. It had been 11 days since the heart episode. A clot, they said, something that could have gone very differently if I hadn't collapsed near a cafe where someone called an ambulance fast enough. Emily had been there the first few days, bringing flowers and folded smiles, the kind of presents that made pain seem lighter. But lately, her messages had grown shorter. Her visits rarer. I tried not to notice, but the silences between her texts said everything she didn't. Then, that morning, my phone buzzed. "I can't do this anymore." 7 words. No explanation. Just an exit. For a minute, I thought I'd misread it. My head felt stuffed with cotton, my heart monitor beeped in accents of disbelief. I scrolled through our previous messages, the ones where she told me she loved me, where she said I was her reason to smile. It read like a dialogue from a vanished reality. Then slowly, that same phone screen dimmed, and I realized this hospital bed wasn't just for healing my body. It was now the place where something else had died too. I didn't reply. Not right away. Instead, I lay there, letting the enormity of it press on my chest heavier than the ECG pads taped to my skin. That afternoon, a nurse named Daniel stopped by. He couldn't have been older than 25, tall, with kind eyes too honest for a hospital worker. He asked if I wanted to sit by the window for a while. I think he noticed the way I stared at my phone too long without doing anything. I nodded, grateful for an excuse to move. He wheeled my bed closer to the sunlight. Outside, the city looked blurred through the curtained glass, streaks of honking cars and people who still had places to be. "Looks nice out there," I said. "Yeah," he replied. "But don't let that fool you. Everyone's fighting something. You just happen to be doing it where it's visible." Something about that stayed with me. That evening, when I finally reopened Emily's text, I didn't feel anger, just a strange calm. Maybe when people leave, it's not about betrayal but capacity. Some hearts can carry weight longer. Others collapse sooner. 2 days later, during my late-night walk down the corridor, forced stand rolling beside me like a silent companion, I'd bumped into a woman from another ward. She was sketching near the vending machine, her hospital gown peeking out under a shawl. Her name was Samantha. She was recovering from surgery but spoke with the ease of someone already halfway back to life. She offered me a chocolate bar in exchange for borrowing my lighter for a candle she used while drawing. We talked. About silly things, mostly. About bad hospital food, our favorite music, what we missed outside these walls. There was no spark, no instant connection, not like the movies. But there was warmth. The kind that fills spaces left empty. Over the next few evenings, we'd meet again near that same vending machine. She sketched. I watched her turn hospital nights into something almost bearable. When discharge day came, I looked at my phone one last time. No new messages. No apologies from Emily. And that was okay. I typed a note instead, to myself. Forgive her. Then forgive yourself for still caring. Outside, the winter air hit my face like a quiet baptism. The world looked ordinary. Buses groaning, cabs honking, birds above the chaos. I lifted my bag, feeling the weight of it, the unfamiliar freedom of it. Sometimes, healing doesn't look like walking out stronger. Sometimes it's just walking out, breathing, limping, but still choosing tomorrow. And that's what I did. 3 months had passed since I left the hospital. The world had color again, not as vivid as before, but enough to look forward to mornings. My doctor said my heart was healing better than expected. I still carried the scar and the pills, but I also carried something else, peace. Samantha and I had kept in touch after discharge. It started with short texts. "How's the recovery? Hate this hospital coffee yet?" Little things that slowly turned into long calls, late-night stories, and the warmth of someone who understood uncertainty. By the time spring rolled around, we decided to meet again. No 4 lines, no hospital gowns. Just two people trying to be whole. That Saturday, I found her waiting at a park bench, sketchbook in her lap, sunlight tangled in her blonde curls. She smiled when she saw me. "You look alive," she said. "I am," I replied, meaning it more than ever. We spent hours walking through the park, her laughter cutting through the air like music. It didn't feel forced, it felt earned, two survivors rewriting what love could mean. Days became weeks, and slowly, something real began to form. She'd come over with takeout, and we'd sit on the couch, her legs curled under her as we talked until midnight. I hadn't told her much about Emily, not because I wanted to hide it, but because I believed that story had ended. It hadn't. One rainy evening, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, she was standing there, Emily, soaked from head to toe, holding her phone in one hand. Her eyes were swollen, her voice trembling. "Can we talk?" The sight of her dragged every buried memory back to the surface. The hospital walls, her last message, the weight of silence. I hesitated. "Emily, I don't think, please," she cut in. "I made a mistake. I freaked out back then. You were so sick and I didn't know how to handle it. I thought I was helping by walking away, but I was just scared." Her voice cracked, and a part of me, the part that still remembered her laugh, her early morning texts, the scent of vanilla on her shirts, wanted to believe her. But behind her words I heard something else. The sound of the wheels that had already started moving forward with Samantha. That night, I sat in silence long after she left, rain tracing slow tears down the window glass. When my phone rang, it was Samantha. Her voice was soft. "You okay? You sound far away." "I'm here," I said. "Just thinking." I didn't tell her about Emily then. Not yet. Over the next few days, Emily appeared again, a text here, a coffee invite there. Always gentle, always remorseful. But something had shifted. She wasn't the same, and neither was I. One afternoon, I finally told Samantha everything. I expected anger or jealousy. Instead, she looked at me for a long time and said, "You don't owe me perfection, but I need honesty." It hit me harder than any breakup ever could. Because it wasn't a demand, it was trust offered with trembling hands. That night, I texted Emily back. "You were part of my story, but not the ending. I wish you well." When I hit send, the silence that followed wasn't painful this time. It was closure, clean and deep. Then I called Samantha. "Dinner tonight?" I asked. She laughed, the kind of laugh that builds homes inside broken things. "Only if you're cooking." And maybe that was it, the real kind of healing. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Just quiet choices made with steady hands, choosing not who you loved first, but who stayed when the world went still. We started with a coffee invitation that should have meant nothing. Emily had texted again. "Just one cup, Ethan. For closure." Closure. The word looked innocent on the glowing screen, but deep down, I knew closure rarely came wearing lipstick and regret. Still, curiosity, or maybe some leftover guilt, got the better of me. We met at a small cafe downtown, the kind that smelled like cinnamon and nostalgia. She looked almost exactly like before, same brown jacket, same nervous smile. "You look good," she said as I sat down. "So do you," I lied. The conversation started harmlessly enough, work, health, the weather. But soon, she leaned in, eyes softening in that way I used to fall for. "I kept thinking about you," she whispered. "Every day. I shouldn't have left. You didn't deserve that." Part of me wanted to believe her, to accept the rewrite she was offering. But another part, the one that had spent nights trying to forget, saw through it. Still, when she reached across the table and placed her hand on mine, my heartbeat betrayed me. Quicker, louder. I pulled my hand back gently. "Emily, I'm with someone." Her expression faltered just for a second before the composure returned. "Samantha, right? I've seen your pictures." That caught me off guard. "You've seen?" She smiled tightly. "You're not exactly hard to find. Public accounts, mutual friends." She seems sweet. The word sweet came laced with a bitterness she didn't bother to hide. By the time coffee arrived, I realized this meeting had never been about closure. It was about reopening something I'd buried. A few nights later, Samantha noticed the change. "You've been quiet," she said as we sat in my apartment, the light from the TV flickering between us. "Everything okay?" I hesitated. I told her about the coffee, but not how intense it had felt. "Yeah," I said finally. "Just work stuff." She wasn't convinced. "Ethan, if it's about her, just say it." Her directness always disarmed me. She wanted to talk. That's all. But it stirred up things I thought were gone. She nodded slowly. "That's what unfinished things do." Then, after a long pause, she added quietly, "Just make sure you want to finish them this time." The following week, Emily began showing up in places she hadn't before, at the bookstore near my office, at the cafe next to my gym. Once, she even left a small envelope wedged under my car's windshield wiper. Inside, there was an old photo of us, her head on my shoulder, both of us laughing. On the back, she'd written, "Remember when it was simple?" That night, I sat staring at it for hours. The photo wasn't just ink and paper. It was the ghost of something that used to feel like home. Samantha found it on the coffee table the next morning. She didn't say a word, but the silence between us had weight. Finally, she asked, "Are you sure she's not what you want?" I met her eyes, the ones that had seen me through recovery, relapse, and rebuilding. "I'm sure," I said, though a part of me hated that I even had to. Later that evening, I texted Emily one last time. "Stop showing up. You left once, don't make me lose you twice." A minute later, she replied, "You already did." I stared at her words, feeling that familiar ache return, but this time, it didn't consume me. I deleted the message and turned off my phone. Inside the quiet apartment, Samantha sat beside me, not speaking, just holding my hand. The kind of silence that stays not because it's broken, but because it's healing. For a while, life almost felt normal again. Samantha and I had been doing well. Dinners at home, quiet movie nights, plans for a weekend trip we still couldn't afford but liked to dream about. My heart felt steady, both in the medical sense and the emotional one. But peace never lasts long when the past refuses to stay buried. It started with a notification. Emily had posted a photo, an old one of us sitting together on the hospital bed, her hand on mine. The caption hit harder than I expected. "Some people forget the ones who held them when they were falling apart." I stared at it for a long time, my chest tightening the way it used to before the monitors would start beeping. She hadn't tagged me, but she didn't have to. Everyone who mattered knew. When Samantha saw it, she didn't get angry. She just looked disappointed, which somehow felt worse. "I thought she was done," she said quietly. "So did I." I tried brushing it off as some emotional flare-up, but the truth gnawed at me. Emily wasn't done. The next few days, I caught glimpses of her around places I frequented. The bookstore near my office, the coffee shop by my building. She'd smile faintly if we made eye contact, like we were sharing a secret I wasn't a part of anymore. Then came the text. "Can we talk?" "Just for a few minutes, I promise." I should have ignored it. But curiosity, or maybe guilt, got the better of me. I met her at a cafe, the same one where we had our first date 3 years ago. She looked the same, soft eyes, shaky smile, but something behind it felt fractured. "You look better," she said, voice small. "Thanks," I replied. "So do you." She kept talking, about how she'd been thinking about me, how she missed us, how she'd only left because she panicked when I got sick. I wanted to believe her, but something in her tone felt rehearsed, as if she wasn't missing me, she was missing control of the story. When I told her about Samantha, her smile faltered. "Samantha," she repeated, tasting the name like a bitter medicine. "She doesn't know you the way I do, Ethan. She wasn't there when you couldn't even breathe." Her words were knives disguised as memories. I stood, ready to leave. "That's because she met me after I learned how to stand without asking someone to hold me up." She didn't chase me when I walked out, but her silence felt like a storm waiting on the horizon. Days later, it hit. Samantha showed me a public post from Emily's account, one of those cryptic ones dripping with resentment. The comments were full of sympathy for her, and pity for the man who'd abandoned her. That man was me. I remember staring at the screen, feeling that mix of shame and frustration rise again, the kind that doesn't let you breathe. She's trying to make me look like the villain, I said. Samantha placed a hand on my arm. Then stop giving her power to write your story. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept wondering if maybe I'd been too harsh, if I should have checked in on Emily, gotten her help somehow. But by morning, I realized it wasn't my responsibility to fix someone who kept setting fires to stay warm. Then came the confrontation. I was at the grocery store when I saw her again, standing at the end of the aisle, acting like it was coincidence. Ethan, she said softly, stepping closer. You didn't answer my messages. Because there's nothing left to say, Emily. Her expression hardened. You think that girl knows who you really are? I saw you at your weakest. She only knows the version of you I helped build. Maybe, I said quietly. But she's helping me stay that way. Her jaw clenched, eyes wet but furious. You think this lasts? She'll leave too. Then she will, I said, my voice shaking but steady enough. But I won't go back to someone who left when I needed them most. The sound of glass jars rattling next to us broke the moment, other shoppers pretending not to hear. I walked away, leaving her standing there between shelves of cereal and cracked silence. Later that night, I told Samantha everything. She listened, arms folded, expression unreadable. Then she said something that stuck with me. She's not your responsibility, Ethan. You can't rebuild someone who doesn't want to stand without leaning on you. That night, as we sat quietly on the couch, my phone buzzed again, one last text from Emily. You'll regret letting me go for her. I didn't answer. I just turned the phone face down and took Samantha's hand in mine. The thing about peace is, it's not loud or final. It's quiet, half-broken, and fragile.